Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day and that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Before we get into what we're doing here, I want to welcome Jim back to the channel. How are you doing, Jim?
Doing great, Armando. Happy to be
Re-
here.
Ready to talk some live Pink Floyd?
Yes, sirree.
Good, good. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell from my background, we are here with a very special episode of Live Album Spotlight. We are going to be tackling Is There Anybody Out There? The Wall Live, 1980 to 1981. This was a double album that was released on March 27th, 2000. Now, I've gone on record as saying that The Wall is my favorite Pink Floyd album, and I will always stand by that. The music from this album has been made available over the years via bootleg form. However, in 2000, the album was officially released in various formats, double CD, limited edition box set format with a book, also, I do believe, vinyl edition. Um, Now, the history of the music for this album has sparked debate, arguments. Some people have said that this album would have benefited from being a single album. I don't know your views on that, Jim. Um, but for me, and I'll get your opinion on that in a sec. Well, let's start with you. Do you believe that the studio version, would have benefited from being a single album?
Um, no, I think that much editing would have cut out too many vital things to kind of move the story forward. I mean, I get the desire to kind of prune things like, oh, do we really need, you know, Vera? Do we really need Bring the Boys Back Home? But the then what else would you prune to kind of get it down to, even if you put 25 minutes on a side of vinyl, pretty hard to distill 80 minutes down to 50 and still have it be coherent. So I'm fine with, the wall as it was, shipped out to listeners in 1979. So yeah, I'm not part of that debate.
Okay.
Or I should say I'm not part of the bandwagon that says, oh, it's horrible and it should be hacked.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I've gone on record as saying that, and Bill Schuster has said the same thing. If you edit it down to a single album, you're missing a lot of the narrative. And I think what
Hmm.
people tend to forget is, or maybe they don't want to, uh, ad- I don't want to say admit, but they don't want to acknowledge the fact that it is indeed a concept album, from start to finish. So I believe that, all 26 tracks, for me, it is a perfect run. There is not one piece of filler on this album. We're talking studio version.
Hmm.
But we will get into we'll get into the specifics of the live recording. Now, just a very small bit of background. At this point in time, relations within Pink Floyd were at an all-time low. Okay, to say the very least. They had agreed to go on a tour for this album. The tour consisted of five legs, uh, two North American legs and three European legs. The American shows took place in Los Angeles, California, in Uniondale, New York, also in England at Earlscourt, and in Dortmund, Germany. Sorry. Now, the recordings that we are going to concentrate on were recorded at Earlscourt. Now, if going back to just a bit of the history of what was going on in the band, Richard Wright at this point was no longer in the band. Again, tensions between the members were at an all-time low. Uh, Roger Waters held steadfast that he wanted to have just these dates uh, done, and that was it. Uh, David Gilmour and Nick Mason tried to convince him to add more dates, and Roger Waters said no, no. The tensions were so bad that they had Winnebagos put around like in a circle, and all the doors leading outside for the Winnebagos were facing out. So when you looked in the center of the circle that was that was there for the Winnebagos, basically it was described as a wasteland. It was barren. Nobody was talking to anybody at this point. So, anyways, the performances added up to 31 performances in total.
Not
And
very many for the
remember
amount of expense that they, put together to put these shows on.
exactly the In the Flesh tour for the Animals album that was done in 77, they were a total of 55 performances.
Mhm.
Okay. So as they went along, the performances, the number of performances grew smaller and smaller. Now,
Yeah.
the material for this album was recorded in two stages. It was recorded from August 7th to 9th, 1980, and from June 14th to 17th, 1981. The album was produced by James Guthrie, who had worked with them on the movie The Wall, the soundtrack for that, and also the final cut. The album has a playing time of 105 minutes and 23 seconds. Okay, overall. Now, in terms of chart success, when it was released in 2000 through EMI Records, it reached number 19 in the US charts, number 4 in the Canadian charts, and number 15 in the UK charts. So it did better in Canada than either the US or in the UK. So we will get into this talking about the album. So I'll hand it over to you. Jim, when you first heard that this was coming out, when you heard the album, what was your thought process about hearing on it, about it?
Well, I think I was looking forward to it because there was so little that was officially, released from the Wall tour, and it was certainly legendary. I mean, I was 15 when The Wall came out. Um, and a lot of people in the San Francisco Bay Area where I grew up, I don't know anyone who did a road trip down to LA to see The Wall. I mean, even if you could get tickets, I think there were what, four performances in LA, maybe only three.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So I was looking forward to, having something in my hot little hands. The problem with that was that it was only going to be audio. So, again, part of the grandness of the Wall tour is that it was very much an audio and visual experience with all the props and all the sound effects and the animations and whatnot. Um, can't forget the flying plane. There was a lot to take in, and I know that they tried their hardest to film some of these shows, but for whatever reason, not enough of it was usable for them to actually present the film performance. Um, so I was looking forward to taking what I could get.
Yeah, according to the information I have, they only about 5 songs were filmed
Mm,
from the performances, and for some reason they didn't realize that they would have to do close-ups. So then they went into a sound stage, like a studio with a sound stage, and did the close-ups there. So
mm.
the continuity of it didn't match, and I think at this point they were just at the end of the rope. I can imagine that, Richard Wright, Nick Mason, and David Gilmour at this point were just, you know what, let's just get this done, make him happy, pacify Roger Waters, because there was a documentary that did come out, and I watched a snippet of it, and Roger Waters was telling the interviewer, I don't see us doing this kind of a tour ever again
Hmm.
because it is takes a lot to mount, and you could just see that he was quite frosty towards the interviewer, you know.
Sure.
Um, and I mean, let's okay, this album when it came out, like the studio version, it was massive. It was massive. And
Yep.
people were chomping at the bit to get a
Hmm.
live recording of the show. And it is sad that it didn't come out until March of 2000. Um, so I mean, yeah, when I heard it was coming out, I ran to the record store on the day of, and I just grabbed the deluxe edition because you had the book with all the photos in it, and
Mm,
it was basically rock theater,
sure.
right? Um, so when you did hear this album overall, like what was your takeaway from it? Like,
I was actually pleasantly surprised because my expectations were low, and I don't know exactly why, but I had heard that Pink Floyd live wasn't really much, that they were pretty much a studio band, and live it just didn't couldn't possibly match up to what they were doing in the studio. Now I was racking my brain trying to figure out the context of these comments and where I read it or who was talking with me about it. But I was really, really pleasantly surprised about, the quality of the release when it came out. It sounds amazing. And, as time goes on and more things come out, the fact that they were basically, cutting and pasting edits from different shows from different nights on Earlscourt, I would hope that, you would get the creme de la creme in terms of, energy from the musicians and, good vocal quality and
yeah,
things of that
yeah,
nature.
yeah, because even like as I'm talking to you, even in my notes here, like for example, the lead off track "In the Flesh" was recorded. It was recorded August 7th, 8th, and 9th. All three of the performances of 1980 were like, you know, spliced together, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, and it's done, obviously, it's done seamlessly. You can't tell
Oh yeah,
one,
Guthrie's production is fantastic on this
one,
record.
one performance from another. So I mean, I I gotta tell you, I saw, just a little footnote. I saw this show in 2012 when Waters was touring this,
Yep.
and he is a stickler for starting on time. On the tickets, it said you must be in your seats at 8 o'clock on the dot, like precisely at 8. The doors will
Yep.
shut and you will not be allowed in. And the sound quality was pristine. Not even
Right.
an ounce of feedback, came out. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard people say that I know that did go to see Roger Waters at in San Francisco. They said it was just absolutely phenomenal. And it was, interesting how, Roger's tune had changed about how he saw the wall back in 1980 and his decision for limited performances at a small scale, da 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 da. But then you get to, I think you're saying 2012, and I think he did the wall tour for a couple of years.
yes,
He was
yes.
on the road performing this. So yeah, an extended tour, huge audiences, which was very much the antithesis of, what was going on during the Pink Floyd days. Um, so
Yeah,
interesting to hear how his mind shifted about that.
yeah. I mean, again, just a bit of background. The idea for the wall overall happened when they were performing the Animals tour, the In the Flesh tour, and their final stop was in Montreal, Quebec, and at the Olympic Stadium. And one a fan tried to claw their way to the front to get up close to the stage, and Roger Waters at this point had had enough. He wanted the audience to just sit there and to really get into the music because they were performing the album in its entirety. The first set of that tour was Animals, and the second set was Wish You Were Here, with the
Yeah.
encores being, from Dark Side, a couple of songs from Dark Side of the Moon. When this fan got to the front of the stage, he literally walked over to the fan and spit in his face. And Roger Waters said he was disgusted with himself that he let himself get to that point.
Hmm.
About a couple of weeks later, after the tour, he started writing demos for what would become The Wall. And originally, it was going to be a solo album
Hmm.
for Roger Waters. He had two ideas. He had the Wall and the Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, and he brought both ideas to the band. He said, "Okay, we can do this, or we can do this. What would you like to do?" And David Gilmour said, "Well, the Wall seemed more interesting than the Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, so that's what we worked on." Um, but it is interesting to see that on this album, he doesn't speak to the audience except for one time. Um, Roger Waters.
Right. And it's even interesting, where he chooses to do that. It's like, why would you address the audience at this point in the show, if
Exactly.
at all?
Ladies and gentlemen, he goes through basically all of side one and goes right up to side two before Young Lust. He says, "Thank you, welcome, good evening. This is called Young Lust." And that's
Yeah.
basically all he says to the audience. So his idea and the interesting part is where he was in 1979 as opposed to where he was in 2012. Where he was in 1979 was, okay, I'm going to build this wall around me. You bastards can't get to me now. Like I'm like, see how you like me when I'm behind a wall and you can't
Hmm.
physically get to me.
Right.
Um, and and fast forward to 2012, where he is all of a sudden has had this epiphany kind of thing, where he's realized that he over he overstated his position in terms of feeling isolated and removed from society. That
Hmm.
he did not want to feel that way anymore. Because when we saw him on the tour in 2012, he was having a great time. Yes, it
He's
was.
laughing all the way to the bank, that Roger Waters.
No, but well, yes, I mean you would too. I mean anybody would. But
Yeah.
yes, it was theater. Yes, it was a serious production. But he was smiling a lot more. He was enjoying the music. You know, he would even because with that tour, that version of the tour, every stop they would contact a local school and have a children's choir be used for those performances. So he would be interacting with the kids, he'd be dancing with the kids, he'd get them into it, on stage. He was having a good time. Now, whether that was cash influence, I don't know. But I mean, there was a definite difference um between him in 1979, 1980 to 2012. Uh,
Right.
Me listening to this album, I mean, when I heard it, I thought it was fantastic. I thought the sound was great. I
Hmm.
thought that they basically did sort of a rock theater production and captured the essence of what the album was in the studio, but they just amped it up slightly for the live
Right.
performances.
Yeah, and it should be
Um,
noted that, one of the reasons that this sounds so darn good, just aside from James Guthrie's production,
yeah,
is that, the four members of Pink Floyd are augmented by eight additional players and singers on stage. There's a
yes,
whole nother guy on keyboards, another on guitar, another on bass, another on drums, and then they've got just four guys doing those, Beach Boy type vocals
Yeah, yeah,
throughout the show. So
yes. Among the supporting performers, we have Snowy White on guitar. Snowy White, who would go on to perform with um, Thin Lizzy after these performances. So yeah, you had an entire cast of supporting players uh,
right.
filling out the sound that was
Yeah.
basically Pink Floyd at the time. Um, are there any moments through this that stand out for you? Sorry, for this album?
Um, there aren't, and mostly that's because it's very hard for me to kind of uh take the bricks of the wall, if you will, and kind of separate them all because you've got, the studio album, you've got the live performances, which to me, include not only the stage performance, but the theatrical element of it. Um, and so and then of course you have the film, and it all just kind of like mixes together for me. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts,
Yeah,
sort of thing. I mean,
yeah,
to me, the the they did a fantastic job of putting together an audio representation, of what was done at Earlscourt, which is great. Um, but I think I'll use the phrase that I've kind of commented on a few videos that we've done together, where it's like, but that's not quite the wall that I'm looking for. And frankly, I don't know if one will ever be able to get the wall, the type of wall I'm looking for, because I'm looking for basically a film of the show, just because I know that the show was an audio and a visual spectacle. And certainly, and you can look on YouTube and find people with crappy handheld camera footage of basically the entire production. So it's just a shame that nothing like that exists. So it's like every time I listen to "Is There Anybody Out There?" Um, my sense is, oh, but if only dot dot dot.
So, I mean, everyone knows my opinion of this album. Do
Mhm.
you think that this performance is basically the quintessential live performance or the definitive live performance of the album?
Well, I think it would have to be just by default. I
Okay.
think it. I know that there's a couple other songs that are on there. What shall we do was
Yeah.
printed on the original lyric sheet
Yes.
of the original LP, and they performed that here. And I guess it was removed from the original wall just because of running time. At least
Yeah.
that's what my research shows.
Yes.
And then, of course, you've got the last few bricks, which is the instrumental interlude before Goodbye Cruel World.
Yes. Which
That,
incorporates the happiest days of our lives and um yeah, other instrumental sections just to sort of it's a stopgap for the crew to put the rest of the bricks up to leave
right,
only that one little space where Roger Waters is standing there singing the final Goodbye Cruel World piece.
before someone puts a brick right in front of his
Yes,
face.
yes,
And so, yeah, at the end of the first half, you've got an entire wall built across the stage, which,
yes.
great stagecraft, very, phenomenally done.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and so to me, you've got the couple extra songs, you've got the couple other extended solos. Um, you've got Rogers, um, speaking to the audience as his, neo-Nazi character in, on basically side four, where he's getting into Run Like Hell and waiting for the worms and whatnot. And it's very effective. Again, excellent theater and stagecraft. But I don't know if all of those things together improve upon the original, recording that was released in 79. That to me remains sort of the benchmark. And so for me, is there anybody out there add enough to it to make it, you know, essential?
Okay.
That's the question I'm kind of left with.
Okay. So for you, I guess for lack of a better question, what would improve it? What would improve it for you? Like like would you like an actual proper professionally shot, sorry, uh like video of the concert presented and for for the public and made available commercially and so you
Yeah,
can have it. Yeah,
my guess is that that's the holy grail of any, Pink Floyd fan, is that somewhere, oh look, we found canisters, beautifully preserved from when we filmed the entire 3 nights at Dortmund.
yeah,
Um, and yes, it has enough, the lighting is good, you can see everything. Oh, and we even did close up. I mean, what I want doesn't exist to
I
the
know,
best of my
I
knowledge.
know, I know,
So
I know,
that's frustrating.
I know, I know. No, I would agree. I would agree. I mean, for me, I love this performance. I think it's fantastic. I think David Gilmour's uh his guitar playing along with Snowy White, I think it adds another dimension to the performance, to the recording overall. I think that
Hmm.
the backup singers that do, the Beach Boy tight harmony, um, performance, I think that they add to it. They add
Hmm.
another dimension to it.
Hmm.
Um, I even like the extra two incidental tracks. Like, okay, well, the last few bricks I like because it reiterates the themes from Happiest Days of Our Lives and Another Brick in the Wall Part One. And I also like, What Shall We Do Now? I mean,
Yeah,
I like the drama of that, like the drums coming in, the whole build up to the track
right.
and, just the overall feel of it. I think that this to me is the uh quintessential version of The Wall Live, even though they had to splice together three takes, like three different
Yeah.
performances into one definitive take of the track. I think that it is just fantastic. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that they take the limitations of the recording equipment they had back in 1980, 81, and in terms of the sound, and they use it to the utilize it to the best of their ability in terms of the remix and the remastering of it.
Sure. And it's not like you're hearing a cavernous theater with the sound effects, not properly played, because you've got, of course, the airplane just within like the first two songs. You've got the airplane coming in,
Yeah,
you got the crying baby, and that's a lot of dynamics to kind of deal with, because you've got this, airplane, coming in to basically destroy the stage. And
yeah.
then after that, it kind of zooms into this, tiny little whining baby crying, and that's the scale, just like it does on the album,
Well, I
works
mean,
very
yeah.
well live.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the sonics of the album, the studio version, again, like you
Hmm.
said, like for the the ending of In the Flesh, where you've got the plane coming in, and all hell's about to break loose, with the plane crashing, and then it cuts
Right.
dead to a baby crying, and then the
Hmm.
soft piano, the piano intro of the Thin Ice. So I mean,
Yeah.
the sonics of it, from like total mayhem to serenity, is
Hmm.
just like, my God. I mean, and they're able to recreate this, tapes or not. I mean, they're able to recreate this sonically live and
Yeah.
convincingly so. You know,
Hmm.
again, that's just my very humble opinion, guys. I mean, there you go.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a faithful recreation.
yeah,
And they do expand it a little bit there. You even get more stuff on outside the wall, just with the little band with their clarinets and tambourines and,
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. Um, and it all works, but for me, it doesn't add enough to the original recording of the wall to make it like a um, something more than just a curio.
Okay. Okay. So,
So it's definitely something for the fans. But if someone wanted, if I wanted to have someone listen to the wall, I would point them to the '79 studio album.
oh, I would, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, well, on the side note, what did you think of the Wall 1990 live in Berlin?
It was just kind of too inconsistent for me. I mean, it was great that they did it, um, but it was just a little patchy. It just didn't have enough cohesion for me to really kind of sit well. I mean, it's great that they brought in all these different people to do these different songs, but my vague memories, they're probably vague just because I didn't dig it all that much.
Okay. All right.
Now, how about you?
At the time when it came out, I thought this is probably going to be the only, not knowing that obviously that this version of the Wall existed. This is
Hmm.
probably going to be the only time that we're going to get a proper full recording live of the Wall. Um, I thought at the time it was okay. Um,
Hmm.
I thought it did better as an audio recording than it would as a video recording.
Hmm.
But compared to this version of it, there's no comparison. To me, this is the superior recording of it.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, when you asked the question about the definitive version, I had completely forgotten about the 1990 release, which was done on to commemorate basically the Berlin Wall coming down.
Yeah.
And then did Roger Waters release a concert recording of his Wall tour?
Yes, it was released on Mercury
Okay,
Records
yeah,
as a double disc and as a video DVD, and I have the
okay,
DVD version. Um,
right, yeah.
I
I had
thought,
forgotten about that as
yeah,
well. I guess I was just honed in on Pink Floyd, The Wall, as opposed to just The Wall, you know, performed by, including Roger Waters.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, and I gotta tell you that to me, this is the not only for the fact because it was done by the band who recorded the album and who worked on it and
Hmm.
brought it to fruition. I do believe that this is the actual definitive version of the live recording of the album. Uh,
Sure.
but I mean, everyone's got their opinion. I mean, for the longest time, Roger Waters, had this belief of, I am Pink Floyd. I am, I am the main inspiration, the main thrust of the band, and I think his about face, for accepting everyone for what they contributed to, for some people, is considered to be too little, too late. I know it's for David Gilmour that it's a little bit too little, too late. Uh,
Yeah.
Nick Mason tends to like he's the peacekeeper between the three. Like
Sure.
he keeps the peace, and he's more cordial with Roger Waters overall.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think for me, is there anybody out there? I think this album, again, for any uh, Pink Floyd fan, I think this is a must-have. If you want to capture them in a certain frame of mind, in a certain time frame, um, for classic Floyd fans, this is a good album to have. Um,
Hmm.
and again, I do think that the two extra tracks, you know, work. I don't know about the MC intros. Like, what do you think about that? Like, like
Well, again, that made it for part
the
of the theater.
theater.
Yeah,
But
and it
but
works live, and I guess on the CD, it works fine too, because again, you're presenting the theater performance, and it's yes, the MC introductions are there, and they're quite funny.
but
The way that they're used or
forgive,
misused.
but forgive my ignorance. What
Uh-huh.
was the point of repeating Gary Yudman's intro at a slowed down speed going into the
Mhm.
rest, like on the second half of the show? It's been since 2000. I still don't understand that significance. If
Well, I think the significance of it, and this is just my interpreting it, is that okay, so side four, talking about the original LP release, is the show must go on, and then so that's you know them soldiering on to do the performance under these circumstances where Pink has been, basically,
otherwise,
drugged up and,
yeah,
shoved out
okay,
on stage to do what he doesn't want to do. And, so basically the reintroduction, or the use of the vocals again are just to sort of again give the reestablish the fact that now you're witnessing a new performance by what is a surrogate band. And I
yeah,
think the slowed down vocals to me, um, just help heighten that sense of descent into madness that the character has gone into. That this is definitely not the Pink Floyd that I got some bad news for you, Sunshine. Pink isn't well. He stayed back at the
that's
hotel.
they send us along as a surrogate band. We're gonna find
Yeah,
out where your fans really stand, right? I mean, okay,
exactly. So I think it works pretty well in sort of establishing and cementing the fact that things are different now. This is not what you paid to see because of where poor little Pink ended up in his little wall of madness that he built.
self-imposed isolation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm just looking through my notes here in terms of like we're talking about how the performances guys were spliced together. Like in my notes here, Run Like Hell was used from the June 14th to the June 17th, 1981 performances. Every single performance was spliced together for that one track to make it as to
sure.
one solid uh representation of the track. So yeah, I mean, very good cut and paste going on here in terms of the performances. I mean, it is spotless, seamless in terms
Absolutely.
of how they put it together. Yeah, I mean, okay, well, thank you for explaining the MC Atmos you know version of the MC introduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I've always loved this album. I remember listening to the studio version when I was 9 years old. Okay. My brother-in-law at the time, Mario, who was a major Pink Floyd fan, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, would bring this over. And
Hmm.
again, at 9 years old, what do you understand?
Oh, yeah. What do you make of this?
Right?
Other
I
than
mean,
here's an airplane. Ooh, it's a baby.
yeah,
That's funny.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and my sister would say, like, Carmela would say, like, he's not going to get this, Mario. He's not going to get this. He's not going to understand. It's like, no, he has to listen, like, just listen to the album, just listen to the music. And I'm like, what? Like, growing up, getting older, and your
Hmm.
tastes evolving and changing and maturing, and I
Sure.
got it. And when I fell for this album, I fell hard.
It fell hard. Sure.
Like I would take with the studio album, I would take 2 hours on a Sunday and just sit there and listen to this album front to back, right? And just
Yeah.
soak it in, and to me, it was a masterpiece when I was 18. It's a masterpiece now. And for me, the live performance just enhances it even more. I get what you're saying. Like, is there enough here on the live performances, those two extra tracks, to warrant, going back to it over and over again, or even purchasing it? To me, it was worth it.
Hmm.
I
Sure.
mean, it amplified what I already knew about the album times 100. And it's just like, my God, I'm sitting there listening to going, like, is there more? Like, what more can there be, So
Yeah.
I think it was a fantastic representation of where they were in 1980, 81. And
Yeah.
who knows where they could have gone had they been able to keep it together for long.
Sure. You wish these guys could have said, okay, obviously things are kind of tense right now. Why don't, I'll see you in 9 months. Why don't we just chill out for a while, go our separate ways, calm down, get some better perspective and handling on things, and then let's come back, and pick it up again and see what works, as opposed to just kind of severing everything.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, to me, I don't like to use this word too much, but to me, it's perfection from the word go, from the audience is into it. You can, I mean, it's not like a Kiss Alive recording where it's all piped in, you know what I mean? This is an actual
Yes.
live audience reaction to what is happening. And there you can just imagine people were like, what am I seeing here? Like, what
Ex-
the hell?
Exactly.
You
That that
know?
that's exactly part of it. And again, I to me, that's what's missing, is sort of like being part of the audience to take in the
Yeah,
entire thing. Just I don't know if it's insanity or hubris or genius or some combination of all three, but just the whole idea to say, yeah, I'm going to build an MFing wall right across the stage, even if it's out of cardboard bricks, you know, and everything that gets involved with that, from an engineering standpoint. And then, just the idea is to use the animations to broadcast on the wall. But, oh, this song, we want to take out a brick and we can, or five, and show Roger Waters sitting staring at a television. I mean, it's
exactly.
the the
Exactly.
the stagecraft of it is, um to me, that's the secret sauce of the Wall. I can enjoy the Wall as a studio album, but when I think of the Wall live, I think of the audio and the visual. To me, they're just kind of inseparable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
And like I remember saying to Bob, we're going to go to this concert. We're going to go see Roger Waters. We got to go see Roger Waters. And he said, okay, well, and we got the tickets. And I was hyped up. I'm like, let's get there. Let's go. Let's go. Like we got. And I said to Bob, you have to listen to this album before we go.
had he not heard it?
He knew of Another Brick in the Wall Part Two,
Well, sure.
but he never knew of In the Flesh, or he didn't know the album overall, right? And
Mm.
guys, it was an eye opener for him. I mean, because he said, "Oh, I know the album. It's okay. I know the songs." I'm like, "You don't get it."
That could have gone either way. I think it
Yeah,
really would
no,
have been interesting to basically plunk a noob in front of the stage
no.
performance, thinking, all they know is Another Brick in the Wall Part Two, and just to see them go, you know,
He literally he did. I'll set this up for you. He did not know what to expect. And I
okay,
said to him, Robert, please sit with me. You need to listen to the album, even if we're in the car or going somewhere and we're on the line. You need to listen to this from start to finish. This is rock theater excellence. Like
yeah,
you have to get into. No, no, no. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm like, all right, all right. I warned you. And
okay,
we went to the show, and it started right at 8 o'clock. The doors shut. You heard the big clang of the doors, and the house lights went down, the stage lights went up, and the strobe lights started. Like a spotlight was into the audience, and Robert's like, "What the hell is going on?" I'm like, "Strap yourself in. Away we go." He sat there and he watched this thing, and Jim, he was just like, my God, my
Yeah.
God. And the again, not 1 ounce of feedback. The most clear stereo sound I've heard for a live concert ever.
Hmm.
And the audience, like the audience was into it. Okay. He was just flabbergasted. He did not know what to make of this. And then
Sure.
when there was the intermission, the wall was up. He goes, okay,
Yep.
what now? What now? I'm like, we go for intermission, but we got to be back in 15 minutes. He's like, are you serious? We have to be back in 15 minutes. I'm not joking. The rest of the concert was done with projections on the wall. He, it was sonically overload. It was a sonic overload for him. He could not take it. Right. He
Hmm.
he he took it, but he was just like holding on to his sequel. Like
Well, he must have been like a puddle of ooze after the trial.
oh yeah, oh yeah. When the everything was done and he goes, what now? Like the trial was ending, and he goes, what now? I'm like, look up, and the walls started coming down. He's like, holy shit! Boom! He couldn't get he walked out of there. It was like being struck deaf, dumb, and blind. Okay.
Sure.
And he walked out of there and he says, that is the best concert I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
And I said, well, if the only thing you can compare it to are Tina Turner and Anne Murray, I can imagine it would be.
That Tina though put on quite a show.
Oh yeah, no, he saw a little side note, he saw her with Boy George opening up. And
Well,
and his mother, when he got tickets, his mother said, when she heard Boy George is opening up, Mom says, oh, I'm gonna go. You're gonna give me a ticket. I want to go see Boy George. I don't care what they say about him. He's a good performer. So, so they go to see Tina Turner and Boy George with the as the opening act, and his mom is like up there dancing with when Boy George is on. When Tina Turner comes on, she sits right down and doesn't move, like stoic, right? But
wow.
he we walked out of the wall show, and this all has meaning, folks. I apologize. Another tangent going off here, and that's why I love doing shows with Jim. Um, we walked out of the performance of the wall, and I said, "Are you okay? Like, are you all right?" He says, "That was the best performance I've ever seen in my life, ever.
Right.
It was flawless. It
Yep.
was theater. It was rock. It was sad. It was poignant. And I have to agree. This album brings me to tears. When I listen,
Yeah.
even I'm gonna get emotional for even listening to it live, the strains of Nobody Home,
Sure.
the piano runs of Nobody Home, the symphonic accompaniment that comes with it, done by Michael Kamen at that point,
Hmm.
I do believe. The even with Vera Lynn, does anybody here remember Vera Lynn? You know,
Yep.
And when he says that line, remember how she said, "We will meet again some sunny day." I'm reminded of my sister that we lost.
Hmm. Sure.
You know, so it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And live, is anybody out there live? It's just it amplifies it by 10.
Hmm.
You know, it to me, again, this is the quintessential performance of this show. Um, I mean, and you know, as good as he does this live now, like when he did in 2012,
Hmm.
nobody can match the contributions of Nick Mason, Richard Wright, and David Gilmour. As much
Absolutely.
as much as he protests and it says it's all me, Roger, it's not. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And the minute you get over that and you understand that, the happier you'll be. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Um, But yeah, that's my view of this album. I think it's fantastic. I think that it takes rock theater to a whole new level. Um, but that is just my opinion. Uh, do you have anything else to add, sir? Or
I no. There's lots of tangents kind of happening in my brain, and
well,
I'm
give
just
me a
gonna
mini
say,
one. Give me a mini tangent. Any opinion you have is warranted. It is welcomed, please.
okay, the mini tangent. So from the time the wall was originally performed, 1980, to let's just call it 2010 for easy math.
Okay.
30
Yeah.
odd years has passed. So the capabilities, you know, what has been improved over 30 years in stagecraft, audio technology, um, you know, you would expect that the Roger Waters tour of the wall, from a staging standpoint, would be bigger, better, faster, stronger than what the original 1980 wall, and 81 wall shows were.
Hmm.
Now, I wish with this kind of makes me want for, oh, if only, again, dot, 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 if only Genesis had redone, redone their plans to redo the Lamb live, in the mid 2000s, like was the original plan. I mean, that could have been really something too. Again, just to kind of think about what they sort of started with and what they were doing technologically at the time. And it's like, wow, if they could have updated all that for, you know, more modern viewing and stagecraft,
Yeah.
I think that could have really been, something to see. And yeah, you would have had to keep me chained up in my chair at home to keep me from going to see that had it actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
So that's my if only tangent.
Okay. I understand. I understand that. Um, I understand that. I just wish that if only they could have, again, and I'm going to repeat myself, and I can do that because well, it's our show, but it's my channel.
All right.
Um, and I do believe that it is our show. It's a co-production here, guys. Um, I only wish, and I've said this before, I do wish that if they could have only kept it together, you know, if if a certain individual, won't name names, Roger Waters, uh, treated the yeah, exactly, treated the other individuals like human beings and contributing participants to the albums and as a part
Hmm.
of a band, and I just would, you just wonder what they could have created and brought forth as a
Right.
cohesive band, you know.
Hmm.
Um, that there's this argument out there that that The Wall is basically a Roger Waters solo album and that the others barely contributed. No, I don't agree with that what's so bloody ever because it's again it's the whole that make up that's better than the sum of the parts.
Hmm.
I don't believe that if you had other like session musicians come in and contributed to the album in terms of, and sitting out Gilmore or Mason or Wright, I don't think it would have had that same attack and that same passion
Hmm.
even on the live recordings.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
I don't
and
hear people going bananas knowing that, okay, you know, very fine guitarist X is up on the top of the wall, with
yeah,
the spotlight playing on him. But if you put David Gilmour up there on the top of the wall and he starts singing and playing that, people are going to lose their freaking minds.
people wet their seats. I mean, pretty much when they see him sitting up, standing on top of the wall and doing the doing the solo and doing his part for Comfortably Numb. Um,
Right.
I just, I mean, And guys, if you want to check out Rick Biondo's channel, he does a breakdown of what makes this song so great, and he does reference Comfortably Numb. He goes through the breakdown of the composition of Comfortably Numb, the orchestral arrangement, accompaniment that was done by Michael Kamen. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he loves Comfortably Numb as a composition overall. I just think that to me, everyone talks about Dark Side of the Moon, and Dark Side of the Moon will make an appearance on one of our shows later on. Um, in the next coming week, next few weeks. But for me, this album, the studio and the live album, for me, are quintessential Pink Floyd for me. So, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our view on live album spotlight on Is There Anybody Out There? The Wall Live, 1980 to 1981. If anybody out there has additional comments to make, and I'm sure you do, please put them down there in the comments below as to your opinion of this recording. Yes, is there anybody out there? Thank you for pointing again. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. Everyone has their opinion, and everyone is welcome to their opinion. So again, I want to thank Jim for joining me on this special episode of Live Album Spotlight. And it's always fun with you. I'm telling you, we always go into these off the wall tangents, right? Sort
We
of.
do. We do go off road and, all
Well,
kinds of things. So.
we always come back home to mother, in terms of we always come back into what the topic is about. Like,
Sometimes, though, Armando, your points, they skate on some thin ice, brother.
oh my God, that was a bad one.
If
That
you're
was
going to go down that road of puns, then I'm going to join in.
oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
So, hey,
And
you, knock it off.
yeah, and hopefully this episode will leave everyone out there feeling comfortably numb. Anyways, I get the last word in
You
usually.
do.
Anyways, guys, thank you again for watching. And again, I want to thank Jim for joining me. And if we go off on tangents, can you imagine what's going to happen when Bill, Jim, and I start taping shows together, which we will in the next few weeks? It's going to be fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, please look after yourselves and one another. Click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that we've got coming up. I have some more ideas for shows. I'm going to talk to Jim briefly about this offline once we stop taping to get his opinion. But anyways, that's it for now. Please, again, look after yourselves, and we will see you soon with another video. Bye for now.